Let me start by introducing you to everybody out there. So we are in conversation with Miss Lakshmi Sreenivasan. She's the co-founder of Betterly, OD, L&D Specialist, and a psychologist. We welcome you, ma'am. And on that note, please tell us briefly about yourself.
Thank you so much, Vaishali, for having me. As you introduced me, I have co-founded an anonymous mental health platform called Get Betterly. I'm also an OD consultant. I work with organizations for various HR related and organization development intervention. I'm also a practicing psychologist. It's been over 10 years now that I've been working with individuals. I primarily work with adults. I'm also a certified coach. And as I said, I do coaching with individuals, both in organizations and otherwise as well. So that's brief about me. Yeah.
So talking about COVID-19, it has sensitized the corporates and organizations around the world and around mental well-being of employees. So, people are working from home, and work from home has become a culture now. Right. So as an OD consultant, what do you think is going to change in the organizational structures post-COVID?
It's a very interesting time that we have. Of course, the pandemic has really pushed not only individuals but also the organization to relook at the way they're doing businesses. Culturally, I think what I see is that the work from home is not only going to be restricted with the pandemic, but most organizations are really looking at extending work from home, and it will become the new normal for many organizations. Specifically, if you look at IT organization or ITES, even other, for example, NBFCs or banks for that matter, roles which does not really require you to have customer interaction or field visit for that matter. All of these functions, all of these departments and roles can be very well done from home. So I think that's going to be one major change that the organization will have to deal with, and also individuals also have to adapt to this whole new aspect of work from home. So that's one big cultural shift that I see. I also see that organizations will have to relook at the way they are doing their HR practices in terms of decentralization, some of the roles or some of the decision making for that matter. So that's another second big change that I as well see in the cultural aspect. The third change is going to be overall the culture. You see, it was so easy to pick up your cup of coffee and meet your colleagues or speak to your peers or reach out to your boss for any question that you may have. But that's not what you would be able to do it going forward. So that's a cultural shift that I see, and it's going to be interesting. But I'm sure we Indians know how to adapt quickly to the entire changes. So we're going to pick it up. But yes, that's the big challenge that we have. How do we really still keep the human connection on, which was very easy when we were in the office setup or the office environment. But yeah, that's the challenge. A cultural shift also, as I see going forward.
Okay, so as you mentioned, it is one of the major aspects here is the travel limitations that we can see on the businesses now. So the economies and businesses are trying to get accustomed to travel limitations, right. Self-isolation, lockdown being officially mandated by these governments across the globe. So do you think it could lead to different or more empowering hierarchies with different flow of authority and accountability?
Yes, I do think that. I do think that. In fact, I was speaking to one of the organizations that we're going to start a project on, of course, mental health and some amount of cultural change. So the organization, of course, has different setups across the globe. They also had multiple other office set up within the country as well. And with the travel restrictions now, they realize that it's going to be very difficult to keep the decision making only at the HQs or the headquarters for that matter. So they have to really decentralize the decision making processes. I also think that some of these businesses should also be relooking at the way they are doing business. So it's more going to be more of a local kind of an environment that we're looking at. That yes, you may have one business, or you may have multiple products which you are into across the globe, but more global outlook towards businesses is something that I see. And travel restrictions is I think in a way it's also good that this is the time we are also rethinking whether those travel that we were so we were so quick at, are we going to challenge that, whether the decision of traveling was really required or no. So that it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a good thing in my opinion.
Okay, so all this has become a new normal for people now. They will be adapting in these changes very soon and very importantly. So the present situation is often talked about as new normal, as we just mentioned, and it is also going to force these companies also to build these competencies that they actually never invested in before. There are some companies which never invested in these competencies. So what, according to you, are these top 5 areas which business organizations cannot postpone any further? They have to incorporate them.
I think one of the major thing that I mean, of course, I come from the HR background, and of course, OD is centered around human resources within the organization. I think the first thing that typically the SMEs and the MSME market really have to relook at their HR practices. They will have to redefine their HR practices for sure, simply because some of the practices that they were doing earlier is not going to be relevant anymore, especially because we're going to be working from home. So relooking at their HR practices is something that they must really look at. The second thing is digitalization. Something that they really have to reinvent their business by digitalizing as many processes as they can, so that they could relook at, so they could expect in terms of enhancing their productivity, enhancing overall efficiency of the business. So digitalizing most of the processes if they can. I also think that one of the other competencies that should really focus on is collaboration. And when I say collaborating with other businesses. Now, here's the thing. The way the economy is going on, and the way the GDP is really being hit so badly, we will have to look at business and see which are the other channels that we can collaborate with, and of course reduce our operational expenses therefore. So just to give you an example, for the web businesses or the digital businesses for that matter, if they can look for collaborations with the ad agencies, or they can relook at the SME markets where they can look for barter kind of an economy. So that's kind of collaboration is what I think some of the SMEs and MSMEs should definitely look for. Also look at I know it's not a great thing to say, but they might also have to relook at whether full-time can they afford full-time employees or no? Or can we relook at part-time employment? So that's something that SMEs and MSMEs should definitely should rethink this kind of model. Yeah.
This is the biggest challenge, actually. Yeah. So, on that note, what would be your 5 commandments of OD to SMEs and startups that are actually trying to stay calm and sail through this COVID situation?
Yeah, I think, I did share a couple of inputs with you earlier, but if really I have to talk about 5 things, first thing that most SMEs and SMEs definitely should do is reassess their business model. Earlier our business model was coming from the point of view of the open economy. The consumption, consumers really had enough money in their pockets to spend. So therefore, reassessing the business model, look for repivot if possible. So that's one. Repivot if necessary, of course, but reassessing the business model for sure. That's one thing that they should do. The second thing is, again, as I said, reinventing their business processes, which means digitalization as much as they can, reduce human interaction as much as they can, so that operational costs are taken care. The third thing is collaboration, looking for channels, a sales channel where they can reduce the sales expenses, but also expand, the sales strategies that they could have. Workforce redefinition. When I say workforce redefinition, could also mean they could look at the practices, they could relook at their compensation and benefit that they were offering to their existing employees. So here, getting into more of variable component of the salaries that could really work, because of course SMEs are really cash crunched, and this situation is going to extend. We cannot really expect that in another couple of months or 3 months or so economy is going to come back. No, it's not. If you really look at some of the economists talking about that, this situation is going to extend for the next one, at least till 2021. So how do we really gear up? So that's the fourth thing. Last thing that I really think SMEs should do. I think it's most SMEs will find it very counterproductive and counterintuitive, because the first thing that most organizations or corporates try to do is to reduce their spend on support functions like training, coaching, mentoring. But I think this is the time when your operational costs are reduced, because most of them are working from home. Your office expenses are going down, your electricity, your Wi-Fi, all of these expenses are going down. So how do we really channelize this funds to something which is more, which will help empower your employees? So look for mentoring, look for coaching, empowering them with few more some courses, some online courses that could really help them enhance their expertise and skills in the same business space that they are in. So this would be the 5 things. And one more thing that I really want to add is, can businesses tie up with other businesses which offer online services, for example, mental health, for example, health, otherwise for that matter, how can they really tie up with online mediums which can help the employees deal with the work from home situation better? Yeah.
Okay. So this was all about the organizational structure. Now, if I talk about your profession, as in you being a clinical psychologist and a therapist, how do you see that work-life balance commandments and employee well-being are going to flourish in the next decade?
It's a very interesting question, and also the interesting time to look at well-being. Earlier, because we were working from offices, it was easier at least to say, notionally at least, if not completely, but notionally we would say that at least don't bring your work back home. You see, and now that we are working from home, you really technically cannot break that thread that or compartmentalize your work and your home. So we are working from home, so there is no compartmentalization happening, at least physically, right? So that's one element that all of us really need to keep in mind. So in fact, the last 3 weeks, the number of coaching sessions that I've been doing, especially with women, and not being gender biased, but just bringing the problems that women could be facing, women workforce would be facing, is this: that obviously because you're at home, you are expected to take care of all the needs of the family as well, plus take care of the work that you've been doing. Yeah. And I also think that unfortunately, because you're working from home, organizations are also expecting you to put in all 8 hours. Earlier we had 8 hours including our breaks, but now we are expected to put that 8 hours all completely for work, because you're working from home.
Yes.
So maintaining this log. So that's something that I see a big challenge, that corporates are pushing their employees way too much. So these two challenges, what I really see, and how do we really, in this whole problem and in this whole uncertain times, how do we really keep our mental well-being in place? And therefore, connecting it to my earlier point, that organization must look for services which can really help their employees to keep their mental well-being functional and stable. So Get Betterly is of course one of those platforms where we really offer mental health to organizations, and of course it's anonymous, so that's one way of really doing it. But also organizations could also look at of course, the lockdown situation is not going to be after a couple of months, at least, if we really have to believe that. So working from home is going to be one normal, but how can organization also create windows or services which can help de-stress their employees? For example, connecting with services like Zumba and yoga and meditation or vacations or something of those sort, is that they really have to consciously bring about in their work environment. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very difficult for employees to stay focused, which means that it's going to impact the productivity, the effectiveness that they offer in their work. So yeah, I think that's something that they could do.
This is exactly what I was going to ask you next, that how as an individual, what would you recommend people to do at home, and how to balance this work with this stressful, life, because they have to balance their personal life also with their work life also, that it becomes stressful and people, start to complaining about everything. So their personal life is also hampered and their work life is also hampered at the same time.
And the first few days felt like, wow, this is what we were looking at. We wanted to do nothing, but just after 3-4 days, I realized that it's extremely stressful to just not do anything. And some of the strategies that I would follow when I wanted to really de-stress or wanted to feel calm was just put on my shoes and go for a walk, or put on my shoes and go for a run. But now that you're restricted, so all those strategies that you applied earlier are not relevant anymore. But so some of the things that I really want, and I urge every single individual who would probably be listening to this video, is do not take away your eyes from your physical well-being. Exercise is extremely important, and even if that means that you're putting in 15-20 minutes every single day, that's more than enough for you to keep yourself at least do some exercise, is what I'm really saying. Physical activity has an instant, immediate impact on your mental well-being as well, and therefore physical activities are very, very essential. So 15-20 minutes every single day is something all of us can do. It could just mean stretching exercises, it could mean sport jog, multiple things that can be done. And of course, if you look at Instagram, if you look at YouTube, so many channels are coming up, these short exercise videos which all of us can follow. So that's something that you could do. The second emphasis is eat healthy. I think that the moment the lockdown happened, all of us are trying their culinary skills. But yes, it's good to try and enhance your culinary skills, but eat healthy, eat clean. It is all about habit. So therefore, eating really clean food is something that you could practice. 2 things: activity, eat clean. It can go very long way in our life. So these 2 things is something that you could really do. I think third thing, very, very important, that all of us can really practice is identify a skill that you want to really learn and you've been postponing it for long. One skill. That skill could be anything. It could be some technical skill, some functional skill that you were wanting to learn, or something like a painting or art or music, something that you wanted to learn but you've been postponing. This is the time that you could really pick up one skill and really enhance yourself, because you really have to engage your mind positively and channelize it in the right manner. So physical activity, some eating right food, and of course picking up one skill. I think these 3 things should do good to all of us. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure that and everybody who will be listening to your interview on our platforms will surely incorporate these habits in their daily routine to make their life a little better and de-stressful. So on that note, I would like to end the interview here. It was very informative for every one of us, and we surely like to connect with you soon for more such topics and get some information about the same. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Vaishali, for having me. And as I said, it's all about how do you really respond to this uncertain situation, and it's all about how are you going to take it more positively. But one mantra that I really want to share with everyone is at least pick up this lockdown as a challenge and see how can you be at least 10% healthier than you were earlier before you come out of the lockdown. I think all of us can just do that.
Surely, I'm sure. Even I will incorporate the same. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vaishali. Yeah, you take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye.